The woman in 4B only appeared in glass. I noticed her the day I moved into apartment 4A. I was carrying a box of kitchen stuff down the hallway when I caught movement in the glass of a framed watercolor hanging on the wall. A woman stood at the door of 4B directly across from mine. She wore a yellow cardigan and had her dark hair pulled back. She was watching me. I turned to say hello, but the hallway was empty. Just me and my box and the sound of traffic filtering up from the street below. I looked back at the glass. She was still there, still watching. Then she went inside and closed the door. I stood there for a long moment trying to make sense of it. The angle was wrong. The reflection should have shown me in the opposite wall, not a person who wasn't there. I tapped the glass. Solid, normal. I was tired. That had to be it. 3 days of packing and a 6-hour drive had turned my brain into soup. I finished unloading the truck and didn't think about it again until that night. I was brushing my teeth before bed when I saw her in the bathroom mirror. She was brushing her teeth too, standing in what looked like the same bathroom as mine, just reversed. She met my eyes in the reflection and smiled with a mouth full of toothpaste foam. I spun around. The bathroom door was open. The hallway beyond was dark and still. When I looked back at the mirror, she was gone. I told myself I was seeing things. Stress hallucinations, a trick of the light, my brain filling in patterns that weren't there. I'd read about that. The human mind hates empty spaces. But the next morning I saw her again. I was making coffee and happened to glance at the window above the sink. There she was, sitting at a kitchen table in the reflection, eating cereal and scrolling through her phone. Her kitchen looked identical to mine. Same cheap white cabinets, same rectangular window, same fluorescent light that buzzed when you turned it on. I walked to the actual window and looked out. The building across the alley was a brick wall with no windows at this level. No kitchen, no woman. I pressed my palm against the glass. It was cold and real. When I pulled my hand away, she looked up from her phone in the reflection and waved at me. A friendly little gesture, fingers wiggling. I didn't wave back. Over the next few days, I saw her constantly, in the mirror by the front door as I left for work, in the black screen of my turned-off television, in the glass of picture frames I hadn't hung yet, in the chrome surface of my toaster. In every window, every reflective surface, there she was, living her life in reverse. She cooked meals. She did yoga in her living room. She sat on her couch reading books I couldn't make out the titles of. She watered plants I didn't have. Sometimes she looked at me and smiled. Sometimes she didn't seem to notice me at all. I started covering mirrors with towels. I turned picture frames to face the wall. I kept my phone face down, but I couldn't cover everything. The world is made of reflective surfaces once you start looking. Doorknobs, spoons, the glass front of the microwave, my own laptop screen when it went dark between applications. She was always there. I thought about talking to the building manager, but what would I say? There's a woman living in my reflections? I'd sound insane. Maybe I was insane. That seemed more likely than the alternative. 2 weeks after I moved in, I decided to test something. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror and held up a piece of paper with a message written on it. Can you see this? In the reflection, she was standing in her bathroom too. She looked at my sign, then disappeared from view. A moment later, she came back holding her own piece of paper. Yes, my hands started shaking. I wrote, "Who are you?" She wrote back, "Your neighbor. Where are you?" She hesitated, then wrote, 4B. I walked out of my apartment and knocked on the door of 4B. No answer. I knocked again, harder. The sound echoed down the empty hallway. I tried the handle, locked. I went back to my bathroom. She was still there, watching me with something that might have been sympathy. I wrote, "The apartment is empty." She wrote, "Not from where I'm standing." We stared at each other through the glass. Then she put down her paper and gestured for me to wait. She left the bathroom. I heard nothing from the apartment next door. No footsteps, no sounds of movement, just the hum of my own refrigerator and the distant wail of a siren outside. She came back carrying something, a photograph. She held it up to the mirror. It showed this building, but different. The brick was lighter. The windows had different frames. There was a tree out front that I'd never seen, and in the photo, a woman stood on the front steps. Her, the yellow cardigan, the dark hair. She wrote 2024. I looked at my own phone. The date read August 14, 2026. She wrote, "Time is thin here." I didn't understand. I didn't want to understand, but I couldn't look away. "Why can't I see you normally?" I wrote. "Different sides." She wrote, "Glass is the threshold." I thought about that, about thresholds and mirrors and the way reflections reverse everything. About the folklore I half remembered from some college humanities class. Mirrors as doorways. Reflections as windows to other places. "Are you trapped?" I wrote. She shook her head and wrote, "Are you?" That question sat in my stomach like a stone. I stopped writing. I left the bathroom and tried to go about my evening like normal. I made dinner. I watched a show on my laptop. I didn't look at any reflective surfaces. I kept my eyes carefully unfocused whenever I had to pass by something that might show me her. But at night, I had to wash my face. I had to brush my teeth. And there she was, doing the same things in the same order, mirroring me or me mirroring her. When I lay down in bed, I could see her in the dark screen of my phone on the nightstand. She was lying in her bed too, in her version of my apartment, in her version of this building. In 2024, 2 years ago, somehow existing parallel to now. She turned her head and looked at me. Even in the tiny dark reflection, I could see her eyes. They weren't scary. They weren't even strange. They just looked sad. I fell asleep watching her watch me. In the morning, I tried something reckless. I went to the building manager's office and asked about the history of apartment 4B. He was an older man with coffee stains on his shirt and the tired patience of someone who'd heard every possible tenant complaint. 4B, he scrolled through something on his computer. That unit's been vacant for 8 months. Had a tenant before that, but she broke her lease early. Been meaning to renovate it, but you know how it goes. What happened to the tenant? I asked. Didn't say, just paid the penalty and left. Why are you interested in a 2-bedroom? I could give you a deal if you wanted to combine the units. I told him no and went back upstairs. That night I stood in the bathroom and wrote, the building manager says 4B has been empty 4months. She wrote, he told me the same thing about 4A. My blood went cold. When did you move in? I wrote. She wrote August 2024, 2 years ago, the same month I moved in. The same week maybe, probably the same day. Did you see me first? I wrote, or did I see you first? She didn't answer. She just looked at me with those sad eyes and I realized the question didn't matter. We'd both been living here, both alone, both seeing the other in every reflection. Both convinced the other was the strange one, the impossible one. I wrote, what happens if we stop looking? She wrote, I don't know. I've been afraid to find out. Me too, I almost wrote. But I didn't. I put down the paper and looked at her, really looked at her, not in the reflection but through it, trying to see past the glass to wherever she really was, whenever she really was. I'm sorry you're alone, I said out loud. In the mirror her lips moved. I couldn't hear her, but I knew what she said. I'm sorry you're alone too. I still live in 4A, she still lives in 4B in her version of this building, 2 years behind me or ahead of me or sideways from me. I've stopped covering the mirrors. I've stopped trying to avoid her. We coexist now, living our parallel lives, separated by something as thin and fragile as a pane of glass. Sometimes I wonder what would happen if I broke a mirror. If the glass shattered, would the barrier break? Would we finally be in the same place, the same time? Or would one of us simply cease to exist, the way a reflection disappears when you turn off the light? I haven't tried. I don't think I will. It's not so bad having a neighbor you can only see in reflections. She waters her plants when I water mine. She cooks when I cook. When I come home from work tired and drained, she's there in the hall mirror, arriving at the same moment looking just as exhausted. We've developed a routine. A strange, silent companionship. Last week I held up a new message. What's your name? She smiled and wrote back a single word. It was my name. I stared at the paper, at her face, at my own reflection next to hers in the mirror, and I understood. We're not different people separated by time. We're not two tenants living parallel lives. There is no woman in 4B, there never was. There's only me and the reflection that learned to look back. She waved. I didn't wave back, but my hand in the mirror moved anyway. I don't know which side of the glass I'm really on anymore. I don't know if I ever did. Drop your verdict in the comments. Wait, what?